You did mention that you've been in this business 14 years. Could you speak about the history of Kasala and the history of your coming in to the
Yeah,
business?
yeah, it's an interesting story. Believe it or not, the story of Kasala actually starts in a little town in Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Uh, and that's where our founder, Dan Flickinger, grew up. And it's also where my father grew up. They were friends. They've been friends, I think it's probably over 60 years at this point. And in the mid 70s, Dan took a trip to Oregon. I think he was working at the Oregon Caves in Southern Oregon. He thought he wanted to be a park ranger at that point. My dad came out to visit when he was living in Portland, and my dad fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. And so it's fascinating that my mom grew up here in Seattle, and if it wasn't for Dan moving to the Northwest, my dad never would have even met my mom. So fast forward to 2010, 11, 12, I'd studied accounting in school, and I was working for an accounting firm, and I was doing taxes, and I really didn't enjoy that work. And my dad happened to be having lunch with Dan, and at the time he was running another business out of Cambodia where they were manufacturing textiles there, and he was working a crazy amount of hours and he needed some help. And it was almost a joke, I think, at first, of my dad saying, "No, you should talk to Greg. He's not really happy with his role." So I had lunch with Dan, and I came to work for him. And over time, eventually worked my way up to be CFO of the company, and then acquired it in 2021. But as far as kind of where the history of the brand comes from, Dan had been a housewares buyer for two different department stores. So he had been in the business of importing, and he knew retail when he started Kasala back in '87. And he particularly loved and still loves Italy. And a lot of, when people ask us what's the style of Casala, it's really Italian modern, which is different from a lot of what people would call modern furniture stores traditionally, because most of those are rooted in kind of the Danish modern style. And we do, it blends, styles blend over time, and we operate in that space as well, particularly our outlet stores. But that's kind of how it started, and how I got into the business.
That's amazing. I love to hear how one person's passion and just interest in a certain kind of style and furniture can have such a big impact. It's always fun to come into this store.